I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. It started like most Tuesdays, quiet, a bit unshaven, the kind of day that blurs at the edges. I was at the small coffee shop on Ashbury, the one that still uses chipped mugs instead of paper cups. It smelled faintly of vanilla syrup and damp wood. I'd stopped by to kill time before meeting a client, but I ended up staying longer than I should have. She was sitting 2 tables over, facing the window. Same place she always sat. I knew her before I knew her name. Mrs. Klein. My friend Ethan's mom. He used to talk about her cooking, her rules, her garden. I remember being 17 and thinking she was too serious, too unreachable. Now, I'm 26 and can't stop noticing the soft line of her wrist when she tucks her hair behind her ear. When she saw me, her eyes lifted like she'd been expecting someone else. Then she smiled. Small, real, the kind that doesn't need effort. "Still order the same thing?" she asked when I walked past her table. I hesitated. "You remember that? Black coffee, no sugar. You made a face when you tried mine once," she said, stirring her cup. I laughed quietly. "Guess some things don't change." She tilted her head. "You'd be surprised." There was a pause after that. Not awkward, just suspended. Like we were both waiting for something to move. I took my coffee to the next table, but she gestured lightly to the seat across from her. "You can sit, if you're not in a hurry." I wasn't. The light outside was soft, filtered through drizzle. She had her reading glasses perched low on her nose, flipping through a thin paperback. I noticed her nails, short, clean, one chipped edge she kept smoothing against the cup. "You still see Ethan much?" she asked. "Not really," I said. "He moved to Portland. We text sometimes." She nodded. "He always forgets to call." I almost said, "I don't," but bit it back. Instead, I asked about her garden, her work, anything that would keep her talking. Her voice had that calm rhythm that makes you forget what time it is. There was a moment when she laughed, a low, easy sound, and touched my wrist by accident. My hand twitched, just slightly. She noticed. Neither of us said anything. By the time I checked my phone, an hour had gone by. My coffee was cold, and the light outside had turned gold. She noticed me looking at the clock. "You should go," she said softly. "I don't have to." "Yes, you do." Something about the way she said it, half kind, half warning, made me feel like I'd stayed too long and not long enough. I stood, folded the napkin I'd been playing with into a neat square. She watched, smiled faintly. "You were always polite." I didn't know what to say to that. When I got outside, the air had that heavy smell before rain. I started walking toward my car, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message, unknown number. "If you're thinking about me, come tonight." No name, but I didn't need one. I stopped on the sidewalk, thumb hovering over the screen. Somewhere behind me, I could still see her reflection in the cafe window, unreadable. For a long moment, I just stood there, the sky pressing low, the air electric. Then I caught myself whispering, like an answer I didn't mean to give, "I am." I didn't go that night. At least, not right away. I sat in my car outside the cafe until the lights went out, and the barista flipped the chairs onto the tables. I told myself I was being reasonable, that whatever she meant by the message, if it even was from her, didn't need an answer. But the next evening, I found myself walking past her house anyway. Not on purpose, I told myself. Just habit. Her porch light was on, the soft yellow kind that makes everything look gentler than it is. Through the window, I saw her moving around the kitchen, sleeves rolled to her elbows, radio murmuring low. The same quiet grace I remembered from years ago, when I'd come over to play video games with Ethan and she'd bring in lemonade without saying much. I should have kept walking. Instead, I knocked. She opened the door, surprised but not startled. "You came." Her voice was steady, but her eyes flickered like a candle. "I wasn't sure if you meant, I know," she said. I wasn't sure either. She stepped aside. I followed her in. The kitchen was warm, smelling faintly of mint tea and rain. She poured 2 cups, handed me one. Our fingers brushed. Small, accidental. It still felt like something. We sat at the small wooden table, the same one I'd once spilled juice on when I was 16. The ring was still there, faint but visible. "I almost texted you again," she said after a while. Then I thought maybe I shouldn't. "Why?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Because you're still young. And because I'm supposed to know better. There it was, the quiet wait between us. Not a secret, exactly. More like an understanding we hadn't signed up for. She looked down at her cup, tracing the rim with one finger. When Ethan left for college, I kept thinking the house would feel empty. But it didn't. It just felt quiet. Like everything was waiting for someone who never came back. I didn't know what to say, so I said the wrong thing. I know that feeling. She looked up. Do you? I nodded. Sometimes I check my phone for messages that aren't coming. From people who don't think of me anymore. She watched me for a long time after that. Then she reached out and pushed the sugar jar toward me. You'll need this, she said softly. You take things too bitter. We both laughed, but there was something in her voice that trembled. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far away. She stood, gathering our cups, her hand brushing mine again, deliberate this time. Not long enough to call a touch, not short enough to call an accident. When I left, she followed me to the door. Neither of us said goodbye, but as I stepped onto the porch, she said, almost to herself, You always knock twice. You used to do that as a kid. I turned back. I didn't think you'd remember. I remember more than I should. And for the first time, I believed her. For a few days, I didn't see her. Then suddenly, I did, everywhere. At the mailbox. On the shared path between our buildings. Once, standing at the corner shop, staring too long at the fruit like she'd forgotten what she came for. Each time, she smiled. Small, polite, like we'd agreed not to acknowledge something. I told myself I liked it better that way, kept me steady. But that wasn't true. The silence between us started to feel like a place I kept walking into by mistake. One evening, I came home late. My window was open, the air thick with heat. From upstairs, I heard faint music, something old, a woman's voice on a record player. I recognized it before I wanted to. Mrs. Klein. I found myself outside her door again. I didn't even remember walking up the steps. She opened before I knocked. I thought it was you. I should have said something ordinary. Instead, I said, couldn't sleep. She nodded, stepped aside. No words. Just the space opening up. Her living room was dim, the lamp throwing a warm circle of light across the couch. A half-finished crossword on the table, a blanket folded neatly beside it. She handed me a glass of water. You okay? She asked. I think so, I said. You? She smiled faintly. You shouldn't come up here so often. I waited. Do you want me to stop? Her eyes flicked up, then down. That's not the point. Something in the air shifted, soft, electric. The kind of quiet where every small sound feels too loud. I sat down. She stayed standing. People notice things, she said finally. They always have. Ethan, I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer, just crossed her arms and looked toward the window. He called this morning. Asked if I'd seen you lately. My stomach tightened. What did you say? That I see you around. She paused. Which is true. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, and I could see the edge of something there. Fear, maybe, or memory. I stood too quickly, nearly knocking over the glass. I should go. Stay, she said quietly. It wasn't a plea, just a reflex. Like she wanted to take it back as soon as it left her mouth. We both froze. Outside, a car door slammed. The sound made her flinch. I saw it in her shoulders, the way she folded inward, trying not to seem startled. I stepped closer without thinking. My hand almost found hers, then stopped. She looked up at me. Her breath caught, barely. I don't know what this is, I said. Neither do I. We were close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something faint, familiar, like the past. For a second, everything stopped. No sound, no movement, just that small space between us, alive, trembling. Then she turned away. You should really go now, she whispered. I hesitated at the door, hand on the frame. When I looked back, she was still standing there, one hand resting on the couch, the other pressed to her chest, as if to remind herself where her heartbeat was. It had been raining all afternoon. One of those slow, polite rains that never really stops, just lingers like it's waiting for permission. She found me outside, sitting on the steps, my hoodie pulled over my head. The sky was gray enough that time didn't matter. You'll catch a cold, she said, holding an umbrella above both of us. I didn't move. I've been waiting. For what? I shrugged. Didn't decide yet. The corner of her mouth twitched, like she almost smiled. You shouldn't wait for me. I'm not, I said. Then softer, not exactly. She sat beside me, careful not to let our shoulders touch. The umbrella tilted, and rain traced a crooked path down one side of my sleeve. For a while, we just listened, to the rain, to the street, to everything we weren't saying. You've been avoiding me, I said finally. She didn't deny it. I thought it might help. Does it? She shook her head. No, something inside me cracked a little at that. Not loud, but enough to notice. I keep thinking about that night, I said. How you said I shouldn't come up again. She turned toward me. Her eyes were tired, but soft. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. How did you mean it? She hesitated, then exhaled. I meant, I was afraid. Of me, of myself, she said. There it was. The thing neither of us had dared to name. It hung between us, fragile, like glass catching light. She looked away. I shouldn't be sitting here with you. I know. And yet, yeah, I said quietly. And yet. The rain started coming down harder, the sound filling the space around us. She pulled the umbrella closer, but it didn't help much. The damp air pressed against us, warm and close. I saw you with someone, she said suddenly. What? At the cafe. Last week. You were laughing with a girl. I blinked, surprised. A classmate. Just coffee. She nodded, too quickly. Of course. Her voice was light, but something brittle slipped through. I caught it. You were jealous, I said before I could stop myself. She flinched, barely. Then, don't be cruel. I'm not, I said. She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of look that doesn't ask for answers, only honesty. You have your whole life ahead of you, she said softly. You'll forget all this one day. Maybe, I said. But not yet. The rain slowed again, fading to a mist. A car passed, the sound of its tires hissing on the road. She lowered the umbrella. Let it rest between us. Her hand brushed my arm. Light, uncertain. I wish things were different, she whispered. So do I. We sat there, breathing the same damp air, the silence pulsing with everything we didn't say. Then she asked, barely audible, her voice trembling like the last drop of rain. Do you ever wonder what would happen if we stopped pretending? The next week, she disappeared. No note. No text. Not even a glance from the upstairs window. The blinds stayed drawn, the plants on her sill unwatered, the radio silent. At first, I told myself she was just busy, errands, work, maybe a trip. But by the fourth day, the silence started to feel intentional. I walked past her place twice that evening. The porch light, usually left on, was off. Something about that darkness felt final. I checked my phone too often, scrolled through old messages that didn't exist. She'd never sent many words, just ellipses, half-thoughts, little anchors of meaning. Now nothing. When I finally saw her again, it was at the grocery store. She was standing in the aisle, comparing prices for pasta sauce. She looked composed, hair tied back neatly, a light jacket I hadn't seen before. She noticed me, hesitated only a second, then smiled like we were neighbors again. Just neighbors. Hey, I said. Hi, she answered, adjusting the jar in her hand. Been busy. The words felt like small talk, but the air around them wasn't. You disappeared, I said, softer than I meant to. I needed some space, she said. Ethan came home for a few days. That name hit harder than I expected. Did you tell him? Her eyes flickered, sharp for a moment. Tell him what? Nothing, I said quickly. Forget it. She exhaled, and for a second I thought she might explain, but instead, she nodded once and walked past me toward the checkout. I followed at a distance, not meaning to, just watching her. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she hesitated before paying, like the act itself hurt. At the door, she turned slightly. Take care, okay? That was all. When I got home, the rain started again. A pattern, it seemed. I sat by the window, waiting for the upstairs light that never came on. 2 nights later, I got a voicemail. Her voice, low, tired, unsure. I think it's better if we don't see each other for a while. I just need to fix some things. You'll understand one day. Then a pause. Breathing. I'm sorry. I listened to it 3 times, then deleted it. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't trust myself not to keep listening. I drafted a message, "You don't have to fix anything. I just wanted," then stopped. Deleted that, too. The next morning, I saw her car was gone. The driveway empty except for the faint imprint of where her tires had been. I stood there longer than I should have, the cold settling into my hands. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was almost 3 weeks before I saw her again. A knock came at my door just after dusk, 2 short taps, then one longer. The way she used to do. For a moment, I didn't move. Just stared at the door, my breath shallow, my pulse somewhere in my throat. When I opened it, she stood there in a gray coat, hair damp from rain, eyes soft but restless. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She didn't wait for an answer. The apartment smelled like coffee and dust. She looked around, as if remembering something she hadn't meant to forget. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," she said quietly. "I thought about leaving," I admitted. "Didn't." We stood in the middle of the room, neither sitting, neither quite looking at the other. She set her umbrella against the wall. "I'm sorry about the message," she said. "I didn't mean to disappear." "I know." "No," she said, sharper now, "you don't. You think I pulled away because I stopped feeling something. But I didn't. I just realized how close we were to ruining things that can't be fixed." Her voice cracked on the last word. I wanted to say it didn't matter, that everything's already a little broken anyway. But the truth felt too heavy to carry. "I thought about you," I said instead. "Every day? Not in some dramatic way. Just like a song stuck in the background." She looked at me, eyes glassy. "You shouldn't." I tried not to. She laughed softly, a sound almost like pain. "You sound like him." "Ethan." She nodded. "He used to say the same thing when he wanted something he shouldn't." Silence stretched. The rain pressed against the window, steady, patient. "I'm not him," I said finally. "I know," she whispered. "That's what scares me." She took a small step closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth from her coat. Her hand brushed the edge of the counter, fingers trembling slightly. "You're too kind," she said. "And I'm too lonely. That's a dangerous mix." "I'm not kind," I said. "I'm just here." Her eyes met mine then, steady, searching. For a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she reached out and touched my cheek. Light, deliberate, the kind of touch you give when you already know it's the last one. "I needed someone to see me," she said. "You did. That's enough." I caught her hand before she pulled it away. "And you saw me." We stood there like that, suspended between something and nothing. Her thumb brushed once across my jaw, a final line drawn. Then she smiled, small, almost invisible. "Okay." It wasn't a promise. It wasn't even agreement. Just an understanding. She turned toward the door, and I didn't stop her. When it closed, the room felt quieter than silence, like it was holding its breath for both of us. A year passed quietly, not all at once, just in small, forgettable ways. New tenants moved into her old place upstairs. The porch lights stayed off. The coffee shop on Ashbury changed owners. The chipped mugs disappeared. Life kept happening, whether I showed up for it or not. I moved apartments, closer to the park. Got a steadier job. Started waking up earlier. 8:47 a.m. most mornings, long after I stopped setting an alarm. There was a calmness to it, like I'd finally learned how to start the day without waiting for someone else to fill it. But sometimes, I'd still catch myself glancing at the corner cafe window, expecting to see her there. The mind plays cruel tricks when it's lonely. Then one Sunday in late spring, I saw her again. She was sitting on a bench near the lake, hands wrapped around a thermos. No coat this time, no guarded smile. Just her, quiet, present, softer around the edges. I almost turned away, but she looked up before I could, and smiled. "Black coffee?" she asked when I reached her. I nodded. "Still no sugar." She poured from the thermos, handed me the cup. Our fingers brushed, steady this time, no flinch. We sat without talking for a while, the ducks tracing lazy ripples across the water. The air smelled like rain, but it didn't fall. "I heard you moved," she said eventually. "Yeah, closer to work." She nodded. "Good." There wasn't anything behind the word. No secret meaning, no regret. Just simple approval. The kind that used to make my chest tighten. How's Ethan? I asked. Fine, she said. He came by last week. Still forgets to call before he shows up. We both smiled at that. Something about it felt safe again. She turned the thermos in her hands, metal catching light. I thought about calling you, she said softly. A few times. Why didn't you? I didn't know what I'd be calling for. I looked at her, really looked, at the faint lines near her eyes, the way she squinted slightly when the sun broke through. She looked more at ease now. So did I. Maybe this, I said. She tilted her head. This is enough. Her eyes softened, like she understood. We sat there until the coffee cooled. I told her about work. She told me about the garden she'd started again. The world felt slower around her, steadier. Like the part of me that used to ache had finally learned to breathe. When she stood to leave, she touched my shoulder lightly. You've grown up, she said. Maybe, I answered. Or maybe I just learned how to wait better. She laughed, quiet, the same way she always did. As she walked away, I noticed she left the thermos beside me. A small, deliberate thing. I held it for a moment, feeling the warmth still inside. And I thought, this time, she didn't disappear.